Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Hello, everyone. So excited to welcome you to Season 9 of the Voices of Young People podcast. I'm Marte Aboagye. I'm the head of community engagement at Springtide Research Institute, and you're in for a real treat this season. So many conversations, news updates, and just general zeitgeist right now is politics. Everyone is thinking about upcoming elections and paying close attention to what Gen Z and what young people themselves think about the election, but beyond the election, what they think about politics, what they think about their general civic engagement. And Springtide has been deeply focused on these exact questions in our research in 2024. We've been asking young people all across the country, what do they think about politics? How do they engage civically in their own settings, their own communities? And we learned so much. We have a report that is just releasing called Cultivating Care: How and Why Young People Participate in Civic Life. You can get this report on our website, springtideresearch.org. You can find it on Amazon. And this report is a collection of what we heard in our quantitative and qualitative research about what youth and young adults, ages 13 to 25, spread all throughout the U.S., think about the ways they want to vote or not vote, or the ways they want to volunteer or support different organizations in their communities, the conversations they're having, the questions they're asking. It is a great resource for you, whether you're a parent, an educator, maybe working in an after-school program, maybe you're a faith leader, whatever it is, there's something for you to glean about what young people are thinking and believing, who influences them when it comes to civic engagement and politics. So to bring that research even further to life, we have this season dedicated exactly to those same themes. And in today's first episode, we have two Springtide ambassadors with us, Kate and Jonathan. I'm going to let them both introduce themselves first.
Hi, guys. My name is Jonathan. I am 16 years old. I live in California. My pronouns are he, him, but really, I'm kind of, if you make a mistake, I won't mind. That's like my whole kind of thing. I am Catholic, so I'm a Catholic Christian, but don't worry, that's not my entire personality, I swear. And my big hobbies are plants. I love plants. I have a little collection in my room, and also cars. And if anyone is asking or wondering, my dream car is a Honda S2000.
Wow. I just love the ways you are well-rounded teenager in California, coming from another part of the country and a little bit of a different age bracket is Kate. Will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Kate. I'm 21 years old. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, but I'm going to school for my senior year, about to start in the fall, down in Washington, D.C. So kind of in the hub of, our country's politics, oftentimes, it seems. What else? Oh, as you can see behind me, Jonathan, you would be proud. Look at our little plant family we're building here. I know. But yeah, so my roommate and I have just moved in and are settling in. And our two big things now have been becoming plant parents, along with, having a lot of new things to bake and to cook and, not having to cook for the whole family and being able to just kind of discover new things. So we've been kind of playing around with recipes and new different things. She has an air fryer, so I've been learning all the things you can make in an air fryer. Yeah. So that's been the big agenda thing on the.
So fun. I love that stage of life where you're kind of homemaking, but with a roommate. Like You're still a student. You're figuring out what sort of steps you want to take to anticipate things beyond school. And yet you get this sort of in-between stage where you're like you said, you're baking, you're trying out new recipes, you're making your apartment homey and a place you want to maybe host in or spend time in instead of just, heading to the library or the coffee shop, that you're like, how can my home be this cozy, restful place as well? So that's really, really fun. Well, these two Springtide ambassadors are just a wealth of information because they get to look at Springtide data in advance with us. They get to help us shape our studies, but this is really about their own perspectives, their own experiences. So I first want to know, what do you think of when you hear the word politics, Kate? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. I think again, live in a city like DC. A lot of it is, obviously the colors red and blue. You see a lot of fancy people in suits. And I think it's a term that always came with, big buildings and a lot of infrastructure. But I think as you get older, you start to realize how much of politics is like grassroots and getting to know people and staying as individuals, staying educated and being aware of what's going on in the world around you.
That's great. That's really helpful. And you're right. You are so in the hub of it all. What about the term civic care? Does that bring up similar or different ideas?
Yeah, I definitely, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I do really like that term. I feel like politics almost in a way sometimes seems untouchable. It almost seems like, oh, well, you're a politics major or you have a career in politics. Where it's kind of like, oh, that's a path you've chosen and you have to complete all these steps to get there. Where I feel like civic care is more looked at as like an individual responsibility. Like we all should have civic care and we should all be involved in politics. But like I said, it just seems like a bar that's maybe more obtainable for the everyday person and looks at it in more of a positive light rather than, these 2 or 3 groups mashing. It's more of like a personal responsibility.
Yeah, I like that take. Jonathan, I'm curious for you. When you hear politics, what comes to mind?
The first word that comes in my mind is polarized. Even though I am in a very liberal state, I do think that our political landscape in America is like overly polarized. It's to the point where we are kind of we're not really becoming a unified country anymore. We're becoming more just bits and fragments of certain ideas and ideologies that is somewhat of a country. Like that's how I kind of see it.
Okay, so what about the term civic care? What comes to mind for you with that?
When I think of the term civic care, I think using politics for good as opposed to trying to like harm or offend people. It's, just using it to help benefit not just ourselves, but our community, the people that, really builds or not build, but just make America the country that it is, whether it's, our families, our friends, the leaders or just really the people, even the people behind the scenes, I would say, the people that really make our country what should be beautiful, not, like a really polarized hellscape,
I get that. And I like that. And you each said that in your own way, that basically politics can be polarizing or divisive, or like Kate, you said, you think of red and blue and the people in suits. But civic care, it sounds like this is about individual responsibility. I think Kate said, Jonathan, to your point, that it's what's happening behind the scenes. It's not just waiting or relying on politicians to make moves or sometimes not make moves, right? But it's seeing how we all contribute to the fabric of the experiment called the United States of America. So that's a beautiful way to set us up for the next question. And I want to know if you yourself consider yourself to be civically engaged.
I would definitely say not as much as, the person who makes this their whole life. But again, obviously, like I'll vote in most elections. because I think that's the biggest important part. I feel like if you're just withholding a vote, right there, that's like the first responsibility and thing that you can do, which is disheartening to feel. I feel like nowadays so many people are just like, well, I don't know, so I'm just not going to vote. And I feel like personally, whether that might be, it's like get out there, and because you have to make this decision, educate yourself on the decision. And I feel like it's important as well to understand that getting things off social media or certain news outlets can't be the only way of doing things. So I feel like I'm someone who do a good job of like looking more at statistics and the science behind a lot of things rather than just quotes that are taken out of context or things that may be shown in a different light depending on who you're trying to look at. So I feel like as someone who considers myself more of a moderate person, I think that a lot of the times kind of looking in the nitty gritty and stepping up to be able to do that is a lot of work, especially now in this political climate, but something that is important.
I would say I am not as civically engaged as I want to be, but I think for now it's adequate. I think that's the best way to put it. For me, I am a moderator for a political discussion club at my high school. So I kind of have to kind of understand what is going on politically and socially in our world, not just in our country, not just in my state, but just worldwide. And I always try to not advocate, but to kind of voice my opinions, but not in a way that is trying to offend people or try and garner a reaction from people, but more just to tell people about some of my my fears or concerns about what's going on in the world. Most notably, I'll probably follow up with that maybe in the following questions. But one is just the election misinformation. So I am this year, I am getting kind of into that, and also the importance of voting. So yeah, and besides that, I'm hoping that in 2 years I will be voting in the 2026 midterms, not 2028 midterms, but I will be voting in the 2028 election. I hope, and if I did the math correctly. So,
I was gonna say, yeah. Jonathan, the fact that you already know what will be your first election is like which midterm, which year, when you're a few years out. That to me is already very rad. Kate says she votes in most elections herself. That alone, some people go, yeah, these young people are civically engaged. They're taking voting seriously. But you also already touched on the fact that you care about your own communities, both locally where you live and beyond. The fact that you're moderating the political discussion club at school, it's very, very cool stuff you're engaged in. I want to know if there's a particular social or political issue that you're especially passionate about.
I definitely think the biggest issue that comes to mind when I'm looking at a lot of politicians has to be affordable housing or lack thereof. I think it's a situation that has affected me and my family individually, has affected a lot of friends of mine, and just being involved in a lot of organizations and seeing it, being in the root cause of a lot of other issues. Someone who studies psychology, it's very quick to see how our government has, really screwed over a lot of people that have mental health issues. And because of that, after the fall of deinstitutionalization and all of that stuff, we really just failed to reach the bar. And so many of these people now are struggling without treatment, and oftentimes aren't getting the care that they need. The intersectionalization of mental health, and along with affordable housing and healthcare, I think is something that I run into, just with my daily life and working in healthcare, and something that I look at when I'm looking at different candidates.
I love that your studies influence the issues that you care about and your plans to pursue a career in the world of healthcare already has you thinking about these disparities and these intersections, like you said. When you look at mental health and when you look at housing affordability, they aren't just two totally separate issues. They both have a lot of overlap and unmet needs. So Thank you for already what you care about and what you want to do as a career, Kate. I'm always inspired in hearing about these issues that you're directly observing and want to do something about. What about for you, Jonathan? What's a political or social issue that you really care about?
Misinformation and the importance of fact checking. And it's because, especially now, and having parents and grandparents that are not as tech savvy and can use social media, it's very easy to find misleading content, whether it's about politics, whether it's about just news, or literally just anything that you can post online. It kind of terrifies me. And I kind of got into it because my grandma went up to me one time and asked, "Was there an earthquake in Canada?" And I looked at her with the weirdest expression ever. I was like, "What do you mean there was an earthquake in Canada?" And it was because of AI generated content that tried to create this kind of idea that there was an earthquake in Canada. I don't know. That was really confusing. And I had to tell her that's AI and you need to be careful about what you see online. And I've been seeing it more and more. Like that was just not like a one-off occurrence. That is happening so many times. And even I'm falling for it. So like now I'm like kind of like getting really deep into researching about the importance of fact checking, how to fact check your sources, how to detect if something is misleading, and just find the sources that are kind of not the right ones, but the best ones, the ones that aren't trying to mislead you or make you think the wrong things. But and also just educating people, because I think that is a very important thing, especially with our election and how a lot of misleading information can be easily spread in a matter of not even minutes, just like seconds. So, yeah.
You're so right. And most people don't have the time it takes sometimes to really see, is this legit or was this just an AI generated photo? People don't necessarily know what to look for. I was just seeing an image recently where people had 6 fingers on multiple hands. So that was a way to be like, this was an AI generated photo. If you zoomed in, you could see like some of the fingers were sort of mushed together. Some had extra digits. It was hilarious once you zoomed in and saw it. And it was a political photo. But not everyone's they're just scrolling. Not everyone's going to take the time to zoom in. Not everyone's going to take the time to fact check and look for those sources. So I really commend you that you are. And I share with you that sort of deep concern for family members, for elders, for even young people who don't necessarily know what to look for or don't have time, that misinformation can influence people in ways that is just not fair. If it's not even a truthful photo or a truthful occurrence, like you said, with a whole natural disaster that didn't even happen. So I really like that there's Gen Zers who care about this, like you, that high school students are feeling activated by this and want people just to have true, accurate information. So as I mentioned earlier on, we did tons of quantitative and qualitative research to develop this latest report. And when we do our qualitative research interviews, we come away with so many cool insights into what young people are saying. You can go a lot deeper in an interview than through a survey. And there's a lot of quotes that we incorporate into our reports. And then there's some that we just don't have capacity to keep all of them. So we wanted to pull some that are really stirring and impactful and share them in this season of the podcast. So I first want to get your take, Jonathan and Kate, on this quote. How does it sit with you? It comes from Chloe, which is a pseudonym. We give all of our research interviewees pseudonyms, but Chloe, age 18, that is this real young person's age. And Chloe said, "We should talk to people of all different backgrounds and with all different opinions. If you stop talking to people who have different opinions than you, then you're going to be uneducated on the other side of a debate, and all you're going to know is the thoughts of people who agree with you, and you're going to have weak arguments if someone actually wants to have a real conversation with you. Have friends that are liberal, have friends that are conservative, have friends that are communist. Yeah, like have friends that are different from you. You shouldn't just surround yourself with an echo chamber of people who agree with you. I don't think that we should stop being friends with people for having different opinions on central issues of life because there's just so much going on. It's hard to figure out. We need to be gracious with each other. And I just think that graciousness, it stops you being openly mean to people who are different than you. What comes up for you when you hear that quote from Chloe?
I think, first of all, it just shows a sense of maturity. I think in this young woman, I think it's very easy to get kind of sucked into situations where everyone around you sees the world that you do, and you're discussing things that are important to you, which I think is important. I think you have to have people around you that understand things and see the world, same world view that you do. On the other hand, I do think it's a importance and something that we should be able to do as young people, to be able to interact with people who see the world differently. Whether that's people that are our peers, people that are older than us, people that are younger than us. If you're just talking to people that agree with things that you agree with, there's no way that we're going to be able to cause change, or understand where these people are coming from.
I really agree with Kate saying that it shows a sign of maturity. Like I really do. And I'm saying this because like there are some people who are like way older than me who probably live in an echo chamber of
100%.
just like, yeah. And to me, sometimes when I see this, it's like, it feels a bit disheartening because they're not getting like a full understanding of a certain issue or a topic. I find it important to have, that variety of perspective. I try and I would say find or seek friends, but I try and make sure that I'm not trying to surround myself solely with people who have the same views as me or very similar views to me. And it's just because even though I am a more liberal person, it's important to, like, for me, I think it's important to find that conservative view, the opposed, that opposite view. Because even though like an approach to a certain topic or issue is different, there's like going to be like at one point, there will be common ground. And sometimes, the liberal way to do it may not be a logical way to do it. Maybe the conservative way is right. So like to me, it's like, oh, I can probably find value in looking at the other side as opposed to looking in this only one realm of the political landscape. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you both, and Chloe too, for that matter, if she or they were in the conversation with us today, would have a lot to teach other generations. I think you're spot on that there's people older than all of us on the call. I'm a millennial, but older than these two Gen Zers, this millennial, and including our generations, who really aren't talking to someone from another perspective. That the people they're surrounded with just sort of repeat back what they think. And the fact that you both, as a high school student and a college student, can say, we see value in talking and befriending and spending time with people who might see things differently is really encouraging, and it's motivating. It's motivating to me, and I hope other adults listening as well will think about that for themselves and the way they're curating their spaces or the spaces for the young people that they care about as well. Who or what in your life have helped you to think this way, or who've been the greatest influences when it comes to how you view politics? Is it people in your life? Is it things you read?
I think for me, I don't know if it's been one select group, but more of a personality. I think the people that I've seen the most who have had an influence have kind of these two characteristics of one. I think they're, they lead by example. It's one thing to say what you believe, It's another thing to live it. So I think, when I see people who are out in the world, doing and living in a way that supports, what they always say their beliefs are, I think that's something where I'm like, okay, whatever that inspiration is coming from, you're showing up and you're showing it. So I think that's something where, that's just kind of a reality that I appreciate to see in people and am influenced by. But I think also the inability to say one was wrong or you made a mistake. We're human. Things happen. Again, now with misinformation and a lot of hostility in media, it's so often that people are like, oh, this follows my agenda, I'm going to post it. Or this is making me angry, so I'm going to post it. And in so many times, like if you look back at everything going on with the Olympics now, with the boxing match and everything that went on there, and just really, really disheartening to see in the moment how many people, were attacking one side or the other. But just to then the people who went back and said, no, I made a mistake. And we're willing to like own up to that and say, this may not change my view or whatever, but I was wrong and I was wrong to post this. I was wrong to support this. And we're willing to go back on that. I think, while, I may still disagree, I think there are bigger roots to these issues. At the same time, I have a lot more respect for people who are willing to say, no, I had that belief once. But I no longer believe that. And I'm sorry for the people that I hurt in the meantime. So I think, yeah, definitely people who are willing to be authentic about their beliefs and show them rather than just say them. And then people who are willing to be wrong and accept the wrong they've had.
Yeah, we've heard that for several years in our Springtide research, Kate, that young people really trust leaders and adults in their lives that will be accountable. And yes, can admit when they were wrong and not act like they have all the answers and everything figured out, but that they see themselves as a work in progress still, essentially. That those are the people, the mentors and bosses, etc., that young people have a lot more respect and trust with and for. Jonathan, what's influenced you? Who or what has influenced you when it comes to politics?
I would say people who are also just very kind and considerate about other people. And also, like what Kate said, people who hold themselves accountable for any mistakes or wrongdoings they've made. And also like the people who are willing to change their beliefs over time, who are willing to put people over their own politics, which is like something that I kind of, when I see it, I really admire.
You've both described characteristics of, the people who influence you that you are down to listen to, basically, when it comes to politics. Are you describing public figures here, or family members, or friends, or what? Is it a combination of all of those? I'm just curious to know the type of people you're thinking of.
I'd say for me, it's a combination. I feel like there are definitely certain, it usually ends up being like smaller politicians, more local government, that you really get to see kind of their personalities and their actions, alongside that. But I think also in the smaller fragments, I think seeing it among classmates and peers, is the biggest thing. I feel like it's so often that we see people posting certain things on the internet, but then when you see them interact with the world, it's like, I wonder if you thought about that decision before you made it. And I'm sure, we're all guilty of such things, but I think it's important, again, to kind of come back and loop around and say, okay, what, are my true beliefs and what are the reasons why I'm trying to be a good human? And then how could I do that better, in everyday life? And I definitely see that among certain members of my family, which is very admirable, and among my peers. So yeah, I would say definitely a group of everyone. I don't think in any way some voices are more important than others. It's just more of like where you're seeing them in the world.
I would say a lot of it is on like my family and friends, and probably the most is my teachers. A lot of the teachers that I'm like, okay, not close with, but I like talk to often when I'm at school. A lot of them are very reflective and are very considerate about how they view the world and how they view politics and how they are like civically engaged, whether it's like on social media, whether it's voting. Like these people are very, very reflective, and they're very considerate, and they really are like, they think critically. I think that's the best way. They think very critically about their beliefs and how they align politically.
Well, I see you both as critical thinkers, as thoughtful young people. I genuinely mean that. And you both share that you've talked politics with other folks from older generations, whether it's family, whether it's teachers. So I'm curious, when you're in those conversations with a trusted adult, what do they do that makes you feel like that you can discuss political issues with them? Are there certain postures they have, or are there encounters you've had where there's been an opposite experience, where there's certain signs that you're not being taken seriously, or you're being dismissed? You can sort of answer the question from either vantage point, something that's been helpful or something that should be avoided when it comes to intergenerational political discussions.
Yeah, I think mine could be kind of the same thing. I think the best thing you can do when having a conversation about anything, but politics specifically, is just to listen. I feel like if you allow someone to finish their thought, or just treat them like they're talking about something that's important to them. I think it's taken a lot more, you're not possibly going to change their mind. This is just a civil discussion. But I think when people quickly cut someone off or throw another statistics back at them, that, they think it's just a sense of, I'm better than you and I know more than you. So yeah, just with like any conversation, I feel like it's important to listen and be attentive, be an active listener, right? Not listening to respond, but listening to listen. And then on top of that, when those things are kind of infringed upon, that's when I think it's a big no-no, and everyone, not just someone who's younger, is going to feel a little bit threatened.
100%. Listening to listen, not just listening to get your point in or listening to respond, like you said. It's such a different way of relating and such a different way of engaging conversations, whether, you listen with real curiosity or you listen just to refute what you think that young person's going to say sometimes before they even say it. So I really like that simple, but sometimes difficult posture for adults to take, the way you spelled it out, Kate.
So I would say, if you're like talking with someone about politics, I think Kate mentioned it a bit, but if they are in this mindset of trying to prove themselves right, that is like, to me, the biggest sign, like, this is not going to be a very fruitful conversation. This is going to like either we're ending it here, or it's going to become a frenzy of like yelling and screaming, or just like straight up like just bashing people for like their beliefs. So I would say like when people are in that mindset of just, I want to prove I'm right and you're wrong and this is why, it's not like, to me, that like isn't a political discussion anymore. That's not a debate. That's just trying to prove that you're right about like one issue, which let's be honest, like in the grand scheme of things, is like kind of like, when you get to the point where you want to prove that you're right, that is such a waste of time, in my opinion. Like, we shouldn't be, like, to everyone listening, we should not be having conversations and trying to prove our perspective is right. We should be talking and trying to form ideas, I wouldn't say form ideas, but make meaningful discussions where we listen to each other and kind of like take it for like what it's worth. Like, I think that's it. Yeah.
Do you all consider yourselves to be spiritual or religious? And if so, does your own sense of spirituality or faith influence your politics?
I identify as a Catholic. I wouldn't say I'm uber religious. I am religious. I go to mass every Sunday. I pray as often as I can. You can interpret that any way you want. And I just try and live out my faith as much as I can while not trying to kind of force it onto people. So I think my faith kind of it does really shape how I view politics. And it's not like influencing every single every single perspective I have, or like every single opinion I have about a certain topic. Like, I do my best to kind of balance between what my faith says, what I personally think is right, and what other people have I wouldn't say what other people think is right, but what other people are concerned about, or what are their concerns about a certain topic. So for me, I kind of find the delicate balance in all of those three factors. And then I would just say I would say this is kind of like my mantra. And it's not my mantra, but I would just say anytime I make or I think about politics, I would say, what would Jesus do? So would he outcast people who are of a different race or a different gender or just a different identity in general? Would he kind of disenfranchise the unhoused, people who are homeless, people who are in poverty? Or would he care, genuinely care and do something about the people who are marginalized in our society? It's not just homeless people, not the unhoused, but just in general. Yeah, what would Jesus do? So, I don't know where to end that, but I think that's kind of the best thing I got. So
That's great. Thank you for your perspective there, Jonathan. What about you, Kate? Do you consider yourself to be spiritual? And if you do, how does that influence your politics?
Yeah. So I grew up Catholic. I'm still Catholic, like Jonathan. I go to mass every Sunday, sometimes in the middle of the week if I'm really feeling it. But I think in a lot of the same way, I feel like there is a stereotypical Catholic young person in our world today. And it's hard sometimes to see that for me because I'm similar to Jonathan, where I feel like a lot of the ways that my politics are run are exactly if you had this human that was made completely of love, right? How would he treat each other? And I feel like so often people spend so much time defending the faith or defending themselves or their beliefs. And I really don't think that's what it's about 100% of the time. I do think everyone should have the freedom to believe they should be. No one should be attacked for their faith and their belief. I think that's, why we're in this country and why we have the freedoms that we have. But at the same time, I think we're not allowed to be attacked for our identities and we're not allowed to be attacked for things that we say. So yeah, I think oftentimes I have kind of had an outside perspective of someone looking in who felt like because of who I am or because of how I live my life, I'm not accepted into the inner circle of Catholicism. And I think having that outside perspective in a way has really helped me to grow in how I can be better to make people feel like, well, if you don't look like this, or you don't act like this, or you don't identify as this, you don't belong here. And I think you have to keep adding chairs to the table, right? The table has to keep getting bigger. And I think the more people that we invite, the bigger the body gets. And not saying that everyone, again, has to follow the same religion. I think that's what makes the world beautiful. But that we all are an important part of the human creature, and the human race. And without every single one of us, something is missing. So I think just that idea is something I carry with me and something that, again, through my own rationale, along with what I've been taught through all these years, kind of leads me when I make political decisions.
Wonderful. Thank you both for those answers. When you think about the future of society, do you feel hopeful or fearful?
I'd say I feel both. But right now I am erring on the side of fearful. And it's really just because of what has been circulating and what has kind of come to light in the past few weeks. Most notably is Project 2025. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I have seen some tidbits here and there of like what it entails. And I'm going to be completely honest, I am terrified of that. If that happens, I'm going to be fearing for my life. And anyone watching this, please, if you align with Project 2025, please do not come after me. I swear. I just want to live in peace. That's all I'm going to say about that. But like that alone, like just seeing that, like being posted online, being shared, and there are people, and it's not like a small minority, like a really small minority. It's like a pretty reasonable minority that actually like supports this, and I'm terrified. And I understand like Project 2025 is a bit of like a lot of Christian theocratic ideas. As a Christian, I am terrified of that because like to me, that is not what our faith should be like promoting. Our faith should be promoting love and acceptance and caring for other people, not trying to make us more divisive and make us fall into this kind of like weird, like fantasized, like reality that it's trying to create. So like, yeah, I'm like fearful about that. And also just like what is in stock for us on election day? Because like, especially with how elections are being run now, especially with how absentee ballots are becoming a more popular thing to use and how voter intimidation is becoming a bigger and bigger thing as time progresses. It's like, oh my God, if something happens, my life could possibly be in jeopardy. And I can't believe I have to say that in 2024, that there are people, and this is like kind of, it's not even people who are in the not just minorities. This is like people who are the majority in America. Like we all should be kind of like looking at like what is going on in the world and being like, damn, this is kind of scary. And like, yes, like it makes me fearful, but at the same time, like I can't be like all fearful and scared of what tomorrow brings. I have to, I have to have some hope. So yes, I am hopeful. I think what's kind of helping me through this whole kind of like political kind of nightmare that I am having, is the Kamala Harris brat memes. I swear those things have been making me laugh. It's making me laugh my butt off for like the past like month at this point. So, because like every time I see a video of the Kamala Harris memes, it like puts a smile on my face. And also like people will hear me say like, you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Like people will hear me say that and they're like, are you okay? But like, besides that, that's what like keeps me going. But I am hopeful for what could be. Like the future, it's not all grim. I think there's a lot of potential for something beautiful.
I hear you on it's a mix. It's not a singular feeling of hopeful or fearful. What about you, Kate? Does it strike you in any certain way, the direction of society?
Yeah, I would have to say, unfortunately, I think it's definitely fearful. I feel like I remember going to watch the new Hunger Games movie and I was like, I feel like we're living this. I was like, I feel like in some ways this is what our reality is now. And while that might be a little bit hyperbole, I think in so many ways you see just like a very strong individualistic culture coming to fruition. I feel like there's not a lot of unity. It's a lot more of, well, what is the world going to do for me? And, there's that quote of not like what, well, I'm going to butcher it, but Kennedy, right? It's like, ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. And I think it's important while we have to be aware that, sometimes institutions make mistakes, just like individual people. It's important to remember that we make up the country. So to just sit back and say, oh my gosh, like what's happening? This is crazy. It is in small parts up to us to say what we believe in, and start to make change. So I hope that we are able to do that. But in a lot of ways, just kind of, again, maybe it's just election drama. But again, a lot of the things that could possibly be on the horizon are pretty scary. So I would say just kind of in the sense of, I'm a little nervous just to see what comes.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, I have one last question for you both, and it is, what is your message for the world about young people in politics? If you could just get one thing across, what would it be?
I just say, listen to us and we'll listen to you. It's very plain and simple. We would love to have conversations with you guys and really kind of have like gain that understanding of each side of the story. Because like our experience as Gen Z, as Americans, as young Americans, all from a variety of walks of life, of lived experiences, we don't have that same, like, we don't have that shared understanding of what life was like decades ago. We really don't. So please, we are more than, I think, I won't speak for everyone, but I think the overwhelming majority of Gen Z Americans and Gen Z people in general are more than happy to have conversations with the older generation. And as long as it remains civil and respectful, we would love to listen to what you have to bring, because we value what you bring. That's really it. We just we value your perspective.
I would say the biggest thing for me is, again, Jonathan kind of already sparked this message, but just stay respectful. I think the biggest thing coming out of it, or whether it's peers or older people or younger people, it's so often that I feel like doors are closed to more meaningful conversations because of snide comment or original beliefs about people based off of things that might not really show their true identity. So I think we're so quick to judge and make preliminary decisions about people before we get the chance to actually talk with them. So I would say similarly, just remain respectful in what you say and what you do. And I think then it makes you a more approachable human being and someone who will continue to grow by learning from other people.
Wonderful. I think you both have so many good points you've made throughout the conversation that there's just a lot of gems. I hope people are taking notes when they listen to this conversation, because you were dropping a lot of lived experience and knowledge when it comes to being respected, when it comes to having productive conversations. So thank you for what you offered today and for who you both are in the world. It's really been fun to talk. You can hear more episodes. We have 5 more conversations like this, each with 2 different Springtide ambassadors. It might be a teen, it might be a young adult, in conversation with one another and reflecting on their own political influences and the ways they think about civic care.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to learn about the latest research and resources available, along with Cultivating Care, how and why young people participate in civic life. Springtide Research Institute is dedicated to listening to young people and sharing critical research and actionable insights from what we learn. Visit our website to find ways to support our work and discover ways that we can support yours. You can find us and follow us on social media at We Are Springtide. If you're enjoying the Voices of Young People podcast, we invite you to rate it, review it, and share it with a friend. Today's show was produced by Marte Aboagye. Audio was mixed by Andy Palmer. Opening description from Fardosa Dahir, and original music by Christian Unthank. Special thanks to the 12 guests featured in Season 9 and to all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Thanks for listening.